Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the
Please be seated. Just returned from dropping a couple kids off at colleges, and I left them with this little bit of information that I thought was kind of cute. You've got to get up every morning with determination if you're going to go to bed with satisfaction. That's it. Okay.
good advice, Dan.
You know what? Actually, their reaction was pretty much the same.
It changed their life.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here. We look forward to your input on our many items. I'd encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate. If you have difficulty hearing the proceedings today, you can contact our building commission representative here for hearing devices, or we do have a closed caption screen in the back of the room as well.
Item 6, to consider a Class CCSK liquor license for Lit Cigars, Spirits, and Lounge located at
And vote on number. Is the applicant here for number 6? Okay. We'll give him one more minute here. Some in the hallway. Yeah. All right, folks, we're on number 6, and we ask for the applicant. Please come on down.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Apologize about my tardiness. Dave Houghton, 2804 South 87th Avenue, here on behalf of the applicant, Family Cigar LLC, doing business as Lit Cigar. This is a new concept that's going to be located on 13th and Cumming Streets. If the council recalls, you approved a liquor license for this applicant earlier in the year at a different location, and they've since switched to this location. Would note to the council that we are aware of an opposition by another owner in the condo association. I'd like the council to know that we have met with them this morning when we became aware of the issue, and I think we're in agreement on almost everything. So if you have a copy of Mr. Zimmerman's letter, I think I can say without speaking out of turn that we've agreed on the first 4 items. The only caveat to that is that we won't have a service agreement, but we will have regular and routine maintenance in the building. With regard to the air penetration test, my client would agree to do extra sealants through Firecock if it's commercially reasonable. I'd point out to the council that right now the plans were submitted by an architect and approved by the city. So I think we're all the way there, or pretty close anyways, but if the opponents would like to be heard, we wouldn't object to that. If you have any questions, my clients are here about the operation or the concept or the hours of operation. They'd also be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak at the moment? Seeing none, any opponents?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Rob Zimmerman, 1313 Cumming Street, Suite 200.
Matt Herzog, 1313 Cumming Street, Suite 200.
And we're two of the four partners that own the second level of that building. It's split into four condominium units. The first level is retail. We own the second level, which is office space. We have two tenants with probably about 30 people who work in that space on the second level. And then the third and fourth levels of the building are owned by the same owner that owns the first level, and those are apartments for rent. We're here today. We learned about the tenant coming in at the end of June, and we reached out to the owner of the first level, Lot 9 LLC, and expressed our concern about the potential use of that space and smoke penetrating into our area. And we've done a lot of research since then about this use. Our business, we do capital project management and construction management, and another tenant in our space specializes in building optimization controls, mechanical systems. So we're in the industry and know this well. We've acted as landlord representatives for Midtown Crossing, so we've managed 1 million square feet of multi-use, mixed-use developments, so we know the potential issues that could come up with these kind of spaces. We reached out to them in late June and offered our help and saying, hey, this is a unique situation. We can help you make sure that the spaces are properly separated. And we really got nowhere with Lot 9. We saw some drawings here and there, and we wanted to respect the landlord-tenant relationship, so we didn't reach out directly to the applicant. And up until last week, we asked Lot 9 again if they had any updates about, and we made known these requests to Lot 9, and got no response, or said they were still working on it. And so that's why we felt like that's why we're here today. That we know that the legislative bill that allowed cigar bars, the intent, and it states that people voluntarily go to cigar bars and know that they're being exposed by choice to secondhand smoke. Our concern is that occupants in our space are potentially involuntarily being exposed to secondhand smoke. And we just want to help make sure everything is done that's reasonable to prevent that from happening. And that's why we laid out these concerns.
Yeah, and just to follow up, we talked for a few minutes before the meeting with the tenant, and I think there's more discussions to be had, and they seem willing to have those discussions, but we still wanted to make our position known.
Okay. All right, I'm sure there'll be some questions for you.
Sure.
Are there any other opponents that want to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for now. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, could you come up, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Well,
Good. Can you do a commercial for us regarding what you're proposing there with the cigar bar? Meaning your hours of operations, what you'll have, what are you?
well, yes, I can. I
I
mean,
just need your address for the record, too, if you would.
I'm sorry.
Just need your address, name and address for the record.
Frederick Franklin, 4214 California Street.
Thank
And Lit Cigar is and Spirits is intended to serve a niche that is different and that will enhance the cigar smoking community in Omaha. To answer your question about the hours, I mean, we haven't locked in anything, but we have generally talked about 11 to 11. And the one thing someone asked us about, based on where the location is and the fact that there might be people wanting to hang out to 2 o'clock in the morning, if we would consider doing something like that. And I've talked to Kevin, my business partner, on this, and our answer to that is absolutely not. And the reason why, and I want you guys to understand this, Lit Cigars is not a club, and it's not a bar. We're calling ourselves a lounge because that is a different energy and a different vibe, and it is not a place where people are coming to get their party on. It's a place for mature adult people to come and enjoy conversation without having to overcome loud music, without having to deal with all the kinds of, the things that represent the kind of club life that young people like to engage in. I mean, some of you all may know me and I've been around a long time, and I'm too old to personally want to be involved in a party or a club life. But I do enjoy the kind of conversations that take place in a cigar lounge, much like what would happen on a golf course where, deals are being brokered or networks are being developed, that kind of thing. So the main thing I would like for you to understand about what it is we're attempting to do is that it's not a party spot by any stretch of the imagination. It is for lack of a better term, kind of a chill spot. And then the gentleman, we did meet with the gentleman who stood in opposition. We met with them beforehand, and we're really not that far apart. We walked away from our meeting thinking that if they had the opportunity to visit with us personally, as opposed to going through our landlord, that we probably would be even that much further ahead. But what I want you guys to understand is the air exchange system that we intend to have, it'll far exceed the air exchange system that any other cigar lounge in Omaha currently has. I know that there was one that is considered state-of-the-art on North 30th Street, and the unit that they will have something that's identical to that, except we'll have two of them. Well, we have a bigger space, but I've been spending a lot of time doing research, and I'm not an engineer. I'm not an HVAC person, but our objective is to be able to have a place where people can come in, walk out. Yes, you're going to smell cigars, but you don't necessarily have to walk out of there smelling like you've been smoking a cigar if you just want to come in and have a beer or something like that. We intend to make the place as friendly for people who are non-smokers and females as possible. That's part of our business model. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Okay, but
Thank you very much.
I tend to, the lawyer in me tends to ramble a little bit. So.
Thank you.
So,
And
but
I thank you so much.
yeah.
All right, and so then I would imagine that you guys are satisfied with the negotiations that you've had in terms of some of the concerns you had. Is that correct?
I would agree that most of the way there. In fact, if we had just a couple more minutes before it started, we would have gotten there. I will say our probably the only concern, or not the only, but the concern we have with the mechanical system is, like the applicant mentioned, he's not an engineer. We want to make sure an engineer looks at it, a registered engineer from Nebraska looks at it and makes sure the system is going to work. And that's really all we're looking for, is to make sure, because in our industry, every project is a prototype. We're not building cars. So every space is unique, and the shape, the volume, and we can't just assume that buying something off the shelf is going to work. We really need to look at how it fits in that space, right. And that's why it's important to have an engineer look at this specific location to make sure. Right.
And as Mr. Franklin indicated that he's a lawyer, so I think you're in good hands here. Your business is in my district, and I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Let me ask you this, would a few more minutes allow you guys to come to some agreement here? If my colleagues were willing to address this a little bit later in the agenda?
Do we have time on this?
Yes, it could be laid over.
Why don't we,
into-
I had the light on next, I was gonna suggest we do that.
We can, unless,
Well, if I may, council members, I think, and I would like Rob to weigh in. I don't want to misrepresent the nature of our negotiations, but I think the only remaining separation, as I understand it, is, and I understand this as someone that's a partner in a contracting business too. Rob is certainly an expert, but from my vantage point, from a legal perspective, what we can't do is anticipate a public nuisance, right, claim. And that's what I think they'd like us to do. That's not really an issue for the city council. That would be an issue for the guys in robes down the hallway in a year if it ever became an issue. What we have here is a business that's gone above and beyond the plans. There doesn't seem to be any legal reason to prohibit a liquor license. And as much as we would like to guarantee that the condo unit can be airtight, it wouldn't be typical to test it in that way. And what I can tell you, and I think Rob would agree with, or Mr. Zimmerman would agree with, is that in no way can we make the condo unit airtight, right? It's just, it won't exist in construction. So what I don't want to do is set a stipulation for us that will be impossible to achieve. What we can do is agree to test the mechanical system and pressurize test that. And what we have agreed to is to do fire caulking on the entry and egress points between the condo units. I hope that satisfies anything. I don't know if we wait another week, I don't know if we get there or not, but I think that's essentially the separation.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there for a second. I'm not sure that's as close as you were leading me to believe. So, Mr. Harding, your light was on. Do you want to address anything?
Sure. Dave, while you're there, I think I'll have you in a minute too, Rob, if I could, please.
And by the way, I'll acknowledge there was a motion to lay over in a second for 1 week, right?
Well, there was a second to lay over, but I don't think I had made the motion to lay over. I think I said that's something I'd consider, and I'm still going to consider it, but I want to ask the questions first.
Okay, no motion has been made then, and no second has been made at this time.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Dave, I think you said in your discussions, maybe there was the only hang-up may have been on the service agreement. Is that what I understood you to say?
I think we have an agreement on the service agreement.
Okay.
I think the only remaining issue is, if you look at Mr. Zimmerman's letter, the last two bullet points are to do what I would deem sort of like destructive type testing. That's, what we would do in a construction law case to look at certain penetrations, right? So I don't think that is, I think that would be going above and beyond, and I think it may be setting a standard that could be impossible to achieve, right? What we would agree to is the typical pressurized testing of the mechanical system, and in addition to that, we would caulk and try to make airtight any penetrations of egress on the piping or wire systems between the condo units.
Okay.
We can commit to that.
Yeah. Okay. So if I end up making a motion to lay over, it is not based upon the legal authority or reasons to approve or not recommend approval or to recommend approval. It is simply, it would be to further the conversation rather than do it on the fly here at City Council. So so if I do make that motion, I want you to understand what the reason
We would take no
behind
offense
that.
to
Okay.
that.
And Rob, if I could have you. Couple things. So one, and maybe Dave might have to jump back up here for this, but I think I heard him say there's, this is ventilation or mechanical system probably superior to any other one in Omaha, but are there any other examples in Omaha where there's a cigar bar with residential and commercial uses above?
Not that I've seen. I looked through all the permits, this specific permit type, and looked them all up and addresses, and this is the only one where I've seen, and actually it's the only one where there's a separate owner above the space as well.
Okay. And again, this is probably not necessarily germane to the issue, but because it really would be a civil issue at that point. But are there no Nothing in the HOA agreement with, as it relates to use?
Not as it relates to use. There are a few condo rules that
Yeah.
specify nuisance or odors, that if the operations of one condo unit to the next causes odors, it's against the condo rules.
Sure.
Which, I know that's a potential way if something happened.
That's and something outside
in a few
of our
months.
realm.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think, and the more we thought about it, because we've had, since we first reached out, we've been researching and trying to figure out the best way to mitigate this. We're not talking about someone burning fish or bacon. We're talking about a health hazard.
Right.
And we have 30 people working in that space who, if smoke came into the space, they're being exposed to a health hazard. And that's what we want to make sure everything's being done to mitigate that risk.
Would with another week's time, would you feel that you'd have enough time to have more conversations with the tenant and also to review plans to understand the mechanical and
Yep,
systems?
absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Then in that case, I will make a motion to lay over for 1 week.
Motion a second to lay over for 1 week. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I just want to let everyone know when it comes, a lot of people come down and oppose liquor licenses because of something else that the business may be doing, but that's not a legal reason for us to deny a liquor license. So technically, we could deny the liquor license, but they could still open up as a cigar bar. Because we're not approving the cigar portion. I mean, if they just couldn't have alcohol. Right?
You have
Does
to
a
have a
cigar
Class
bar
C.
have
You
to
have,
have-
yeah, you have to have a Class C
In
to
order to
accommodate.
have the cigar bar?
Correct. Yep.
Thanks, Scott Lautenbach.
Oh, thanks, Scott Lautenbach, for that one. There we go. R.I.P. Scott. Well, but is having if people don't want cigars, I'm going to call Ryan Wiesen down because I see him sitting up there. Is that a legal reason that we could vote to deny the liquor license for purposes of the Liquor Commission?
Ryan Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney. As always, the City Council is a recommending body. And so in order to recommend denial, the council would have to base its recommendation on evidence that fall into those just general categories of things that we always consider. Existence of local protests, the existing population of the city, the nature of the neighborhood or community, adequacy of existing law enforcement, zoning restrictions. The closest this might come to is the sanitation or sanitary conditions on or about the premise that could potentially be licensed. There'd have to be some sort of evidence in the record or before the council that, cigar smoke contributes to an unsanitary condition or is a concern to the sanitation of the premises or the building itself. It might be the closest you can get. I don't think there's probably a lot of case law on that. So certainly I could make the argument to the commission. I don't know if they would be receptive to that, but that'd be what might look like the closest thing that this might apply to.
And you have never seen a case like that down in front of the Liquor Commission where somebody was denied their liquor license because of the smell of cigar smoke or the smoke itself?
I haven't. I can't represent that I've actually looked for that, but I haven't seen something like this.
And even if we were to deny or make a no recommendation, the Liquor Commission can still grant the liquor license. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. The City Council doesn't deny licenses. You just make a recommendation for denial of the license. Ultimately, it is the Liquor Control Commission's decision.
Okay. And that's my other question was just what, if we were to do that, what could we base it on? But it's the sanitary conditions might be the only thing that is potentially legitimately connected to this.
Just looking at it real quick while sitting here, that's, if I were required to make an argument, that's probably the argument that I would try and make. But again, there should be some sort of evidence in the record before the City Council too that would lead to a conclusion that there was an unsanitary condition on the licensed premises.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. So I'm going to support the layover. I just kind of wanted everybody to know kind of what position they're in. Now, there may be a legal position that you have that's outside the City Council, and I think Dave recognized that. That's for people in the other building decision to make. So whether we support the liquor license doesn't mean that we don't necessarily care about the conditions where you live. It just means it's not a decision that we should be making. It's going to have to be presented somewhere else. Dave, did you have something you wanted to say?
At the risk of speaking too much, I guess what I would like to point out to the council is I really do think the only separation we have is pressure testing the condo envelope. And right now, though we would love to do that, we don't know what tolerance would be acceptable to the opponents. If they're, so far as I know, there is no tolerance or suggested tolerance for this kind of thing because I don't think it really exists. So as much as we would like to make the condo unit airtight, I'm not sure that it's possible, right? So I don't think that as much as we would like to stipulate to that today, I don't know that it would be, I think it would be a burden that we couldn't potentially meet. That said, I think it is important to point out that we've got advanced filtration systems that exceed all other cigar bars in town. And in addition to that, and just as a point of record, because I think it came up earlier in the hearing, that there are other cigar bars in town that have adjacent condo retail properties. And I think it's Havana Garage, does have an upstairs condo unit. It may be vacant, but I think it's a residential unit downtown. So I'm just thinking offhand, like Safari, for example, would have an adjacent condo unit right next to it. I think in almost every case but one cigar bar in town, that would be the case.
Yeah, I think they're next door, not above, but yeah.
You could be right, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing above at Safari,
But
I know that.
they share walls in any instance.
Okay. All right, well, I hope that the two of you will be able to work things out but I just kind of wanted to be clear where we were from the council's spot and the law that and the statutes that we're within, that we have to follow. And what I don't like to do is send our lawyer down to make arguments that I know he can't win, and I know he doesn't like to go down there with that direction either, because sometimes it hurts us when we then have a legitimate license that we're trying to protect. So, I mean, I just want you to know that it doesn't mean that we don't care. I just don't think that maybe we're the ones that are going to give you the relief you potentially need if you have a problem with the cigar smoke. I have nothing further. I'll support the laying it over.
Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Zimmerman, you don't have to get up, but I did see your email late in the day. It got sent this morning. I had a lot of committee meetings today. So it's my understanding, I guess, David, I'll ask you, and then if I got to talk to Mr. Zimmerman, or please, was the first conversation, I'm understanding, between you and council began today?
Yes, it began a few minutes before the meeting.
Okay, that's what I thought. And David reached out to me, and I appreciate at least the conversation you're having. I'm going to support the layover because I think, not that I'm against Mr. Franklin, what he's doing here. And those of you that knew my dad, he loved to have a good cigar, but it was a King Edward. It wasn't the ones that they're probably going to be selling here. And I'll look forward to getting down there once this process is done to have a good cigar and honor my dad on his birthday. But first, I think that I'm willing to support the layover because I think it sounds like, from what I'm hearing in conversation with council and hearing here, that you guys are pretty close on, and again, I apologize, I didn't respond to your email, but I saw it late, right before the meeting. So I think there's no harm in doing a layover to let the dialogue between you guys continue to try to, no pun intended, to plug any gaps on things that we're missing here, and we can revisit it next week. Thanks, Mr. President.
Yeah. On behalf of the applicant, we'll do everything in our power to get everybody to yes. We'll commit to that for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Hug.
Havana Garage, there's condos above them as well, correct?
I believe so.
Because I think that actually used to be, that building that's in actually used to be a hotel, I think, 100 years ago.
I think Mr. Zimmerman told me they're currently unoccupied, but I believe they are residential units above Havana Garage.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to lay over for 1 week. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
Yes.
Hug.
Yes.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you for your testimony.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Set the Bar located at 6121 Maple Street, Suite 2.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and City Council members. I'm Molly Hike, 6121 Maple Street, Suite 2. I'm the applicant for Set the Bar.
Thank you, Molly. You want to tell us a little bit about it? It's right in downtown Benson, right?
Absolutely, yes. So we will be the first women's focused sports bar in Nebraska, and hopefully the 7th in the United States. We want to be a place where everyone is welcome. With the momentum happening right now in women's sports, right now you can't go into a sports bar without having to ask for women's sports to be on TV, let alone audio. So we want a place where we can make that happen. So the momentum is happening and the moment's now.
That's great. We'll welcome you to Benson for sure.
Thank you.
Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
I'll do a motion to approve since it's in your district.
Yep.
And I love the idea.
Thank you.
I'll second. My girls will want me to ask to make sure you show volleyball, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to have a pop-up at Benson Theater September 22nd and introduce the community to Set the Bar.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Good luck.
Item 8, to consider Class C liquor license for Early Bird located at 17330 West Center Road, Suite 102.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom. Ms. Connor, we'll get you off mute here in a second. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good afternoon. Nikki Connor, address is 4616 South 163rd Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68135. Here for Early Bird today. This is just going to be a new location that is opening in West Omaha. It is set to open on October 7th. Here for any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak in the audience? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, to consider a Class I liquor license for Jay's Smokehouse located at 4725 South 96th Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. We also have the applicant by Zoom, Mr. Hawk. Get you off mute. Okay. Try
Yeah,
that.
so can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is James Hawk, 4725 South 76th Street. Oh, sorry. My address is 7524 South 76th Street, La Vista, Nebraska, 68128. Looking for a liquor license for Jay's Smokehouse, located 4725 South 76th Street, Omaha, South 96th Street, Omaha, 68127. Looking to sell beer to our wonderful barbecue customers.
Great. Thank you. Any other proponents in the audience? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, to consider a Class IK and L liquor licenses for Upstream Brewing Company located at 514 South 11th Street.
The public hearing and vote on number 10 is today. The applicant has requested a 1-week layover. Motion to lay over in a second for 1 week. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 11, to consider a Class D liquor license for Moe's Mart located at 720 North 108th Avenue.
The public hearing and vote on number 11 is today. Is this the applicant, remaining applicant by Zoom? Okay. We'll get you off mute here in a second. Okay, it looks like that worked. Give that a try.
Hello.
Yes, I think we can hear you now. Just your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Sajjad. Address is 720 North, 108th Ave, Omaha, Nebraska.
Thank you. Any other proponents in the audience today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 12, to consider a special designated liquor license application for Josephine's Cozy Corner for an event on September 6th from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. with music until midnight.
Public hearing and vote on number 12 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, my name is Frank Rizzuto, 2201 Pierce Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68108.
Thank you. Just here to answer questions.
Yes.
Okay. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Ms. Rizzuto. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You have this before us today. You're going to have a SDL for an event. Is it for your class reunion? Is that what it's for?
Yeah, 40-year class reunion.
40?
Yep.
Okay. Central High for Festerson over there, you
All
alums
right.
of Central
I'm
High.
not far behind you.
And so, music, you're not going to have a band playing, is that correct?
No band. It'll be one speaker on a tripod just for background. It's
Okay.
not going to be anything that needs to be or will be played loudly, so.
Okay, and did you speak to any of the neighbors at all before you provided the request for this SDL?
I've spoken to a couple. I plan to speak to more.
Okay, and you reached out to the neighborhood association, but you still haven't made that connection yet?
Right. I Googled his name, but I think there is something I did see on there to email him, so I could try that.
Okay, and I can get that for you as well. I know when we talked last week, you would explain to me that you're going to have some classmates from Central High, and you're going to have a little background music, and are you going to have staff there on the outside of the bar there where your SDL permit's going to be for?
Yes. There'll
Okay.
be someone out there all the time, and then I'll be walking around, and then I'll have people in the bar working, mixing drinks and serving. So.
Okay, and how long have you owned Josephine's for?
I guess 37 years now.
Okay, so you're a long-time neighbor, and I know you said one of the neighbors that is close by where you're going to be holding this event is your aunt, is that correct?
Yes, she's across the street.
And you probably don't want to make your aunt upset with any loud issues at your establishment for your 40-year reunion, I would assume, correct?
No.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate you coming down. I'll make a motion to support this today. Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
I think anytime we can have an event like this in our community, it's nothing but good things. So good luck to you, and have a great reunion.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Thanks.
Item 13, a resolution to approve the revised preliminary plat for West Maple Hills located northeast of Big Elk Parkway and West Maple Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 13 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 14, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for McGill Industrial Park located northeast of Rainwood Road and Blair High Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 14 is today. Proponents, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brent Beller, 1140 Rest Center Road, on behalf of the applicant, which is McGill Industries, as well as Burlington Park 2 LLC. We are up north, just north of the Irvington area. Just want to give a little bit of background. So there's actually two tracts of land here. There's a tract of land that's basically right here. This is our dividing line. This is owned by Mr. McGill. And then this going south, that's actually the Frost property. So Mr. and Mrs. Frost are here today. They're selling this property to Burlington Park. It has long been a cattle farm and a hog farm, and now they are moving north, seeing that development is moving in. And what that development is, and it's really important because, as you all know, we all, developers and attorneys alike, we follow the city's master plan. And this is the city's master plan this is Highway 133. This is I-680 to the south. But basically, everything you see in gray, this is all industrial. So when Mr. and Mrs. Frost put their property on the market, folks that want to do industrial type developments contacted them, and that's where we are. If you know this area, everything to the west is all industrial. There's large data centers going on there. To our south is another industrial development that's called Rainwood Point. And as you go further south, this is all industrial. So this is going south, it's basically all developed. There's a new industrial development going right here. And then obviously we would like to do some industrial. And the reason I bring that up is there are some remnant pieces where folks have lived, and that piece would be right here and up here. These are acreage type lots. There's actually a horse farm right there. We had a neighborhood meeting with the neighbors back, I think it was the end of June, and a very cordial meeting. It went well. Obviously, when you do these types of developments and folks live there, there's a little bit of sensitivity about, they've looked at farm ground for a long time. And so we have represented to them both at planning board and meeting with them directly that we will be good neighbors and follow everything that we're supposed to follow as far as what the city requires. So when this is laid out, there's going to be 19 lots here. All will be rezoned from GI to GI, with the exception of these two lots. There will be some heavy industrial in there. We have told our neighbors, if they want to see what this will look like, go look at the Rainwood Point development. And it's zoned industrial, but really these are folks that want bays, your lawn care type services, your electrician that needs some stuff. But there could be some concrete recycling, that sort of thing, those sort of operations taking place, especially on those HI lots. But nothing is committed today for any of that, except for there's one lot where there'll be some concrete recycling they have to get a special use permit for. But a lot of the conversation revolved around traffic and streets and connectivity. And so we actually just heard back from NDOT, because if you look on the east side, there are some residences right here. And this is an old remnant piece. There's a frontage road that runs along Highway 133. And initially, we thought we were going to have to tie into that. But we actually heard back from NDOT today, and this connection will not be required. Oh, sorry. Jeez. Okay, this is the frontage road, and this was going to be a connection point where some of our traffic would go on to that frontage road, which honestly we didn't really want. But I think when we laid it out, the city didn't know where NDOT would come down. But in short, this is going away, so there'll be no connection. We will not affect any of those residences to our west. But otherwise, I mean, with any development that goes on here, there's going to be more traffic. But the good thing, and I think for many of the folks that live on the eastern side of this development, is we want to get in and out. So there is a reason why this is industrial. It's located right on Highway 133, and then our interstate is just to the south. So this is ripe for industrial type uses. Over here on Rainwood Road, this will be a full movement intersection that will be lit. Oh, geez, sorry, Brain. There we go. Okay, this is Rainwood Road on our south. This will be a lighted intersection right here. To our north, this is Bennington Road. This will get updated as well when the county and NDOT go and improve that intersection, because to the west there on Highway 133 and Bennington Road, that will be just like an interstate intersection at some point, but that is off in the distance. And then up here to the east, this is 108th Street. We actually will improve 108th Street to a 3-lane highway or three-lane road to basically the borderline of our property. So there will be traffic control measures. Everything we do will comply with public works requirements for moving traffic along. But otherwise, in a perfect world, we would be through our entitlement process yet this year. the other thing that people brought up was just water flow. And it's important to remind everyone, there's actually a ridge line that runs about like this. So all water flows this way. In fact, all of our systems, you notice we placed all of our basins on the west side. That's for a reason. That's because we drain underneath Highway 133. There were some questions about some sort of hazardous waste or something leaking into residences or Lake Cunningham, and that's not going to happen. The other thing people brought up was because it is HI or GI, I think there's concerns about salvage and scrap type uses. If I pull this map up again, you'll notice right here, that's actually a scrap and salvage yard where there's autos, storage, and that sort of stuff. There'll be nothing like that in this development. And we've represented to all the neighbors, I represented at planning board, those types of uses will not be in this industrial development. That's not what this is. With that, I might sit down for now, and if there's additional questions, I'll be there to answer. But this comes before you both with the planning department and the planning board's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? I don't see any. Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Item 15, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Harvey Industrial Replat 3 located at 4420 South 67th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 15 is today. Proponents, please.
Aaron Brody with Line Harrison, 14710 West Side Road. Here on behalf of the applicant, Hopkins Construction Company, here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 16, a resolution to approve a special use permit to allow a daycare in the R4 district located at 7153 North 165th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 16 is today. Proponents, please. Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents here today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearings on agenda items 17 and 18 were held on August 6th. I don't see any lights. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 19 through 41 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. These are items 19 through 41.
Listening to the citizens and getting ideas from the citizens rather than associations of various counties across the state, because not every county is the same. organization is part of the national organization, municipalities. They're all part of the national organization for this. The national organizations of that, which work against us for the power to influence you. And then you influence down at the state. That's taking the power away from the citizens.
I think the microphone's not working so great, if you want to try that one. Yep.
Your ears should be tuned in to us. You should be inviting more citizens here to listen to citizens. I can only vote for one of you. I can't vote the other 6 of you out or in. But 7 of you are here against me on this issue. It's time for you to stop spending money that somehow comes out of my pocket for national association. You're not a national body, you are a local body. Federal government control, which these bodies are trying to influence, is handled another way. But these are 501c3 organizations funded with taxpayer dollars working against us. It needs to be stopped. It also gets into the area of what a very famous man on talk radio, but in the legal area, Mr. Mark Levin wrote a book, speaks about it a lot. It's called Cultural Marxism. Talked about in here. The letters DEI stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is a big description of what cultural Marxism is all about. We have a person hired for that. I think both the county and the city has a person for that, to write it into the city government, at least in terms of employee relationships. Back when I was in the workforce out of college, it was affirmative action. Well, now it's cultural Marxism. It's against the concept of the federal republic, the system of federalism, which federal government control is supreme. What they don't have control over is left to the states. The states have control. What they don't control is left to you.
So Larry, I think you are getting off topic here.
But you
This is-
don't have
this
the
is League
power.
of
You don't have the power to
Municipalities
enact
sponsorship.
anti-American agendas. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifiers on these items, 19 through 41?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I wasn't able to hear Mr. Storer, but I'm going to talk on the same topic that he spoke about. Item 41, that the city will pay $97,000 from the general fund to be part of the membership of the League of Nebraska Municipalities. I think that's an appropriate forum for the city to be joining, particularly when there's common issues that affect these municipalities, and so you guys can organize and lobby the legislature and get regulations passed, statutes passed, so that you're dealing so the citizens are dealing with their city more evenly, instead of patchworks throughout the state, that you guys can lobby for congruent regulations. For example, like the pollution, cities deal with a lot of pollution. So if you can associate and talk about common issues, you can lobby the Nebraska legislature on common solutions. I think this body should be asking other municipalities about how they deal with car shredders in their city limits. I've been out west, and they have like a lot of space for old cars, and I don't know if they actually shred cars. I think they just leave them out and sit for decades. But that's an issue that I hope you could look at, because pollution is very important for the city of Omaha.
Let's keep your comments to the membership here, would you?
Once you pay the membership, you're going to be using it for a full year. So during that year, can you please ask them, the other municipalities, about car shredders and how they're polluting their environment?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other testifiers on these items? Seeing none, public hearings are closed. There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 42, an ordinance to approve an employee assistance program agreement with CHI Health.
The vote on number 42 is today. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Abstain.
Motion passed 6-0. Festerson abstains. Item 43, a resolution to approve the nomination of Susan L. Picotti Street as a commemorative street name on Ohio Street from 145th Avenue to 145th Street.
The public hearing and vote on number 43 is today. Proponents, please.
How you doing?
Good.
My name is M.I. Yar, 5122 South 37th Street. And I put in the application to rename the street. So, of course, you know, I've renamed streets before in the past. So this is one of the bigger, lot more history to it, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 44, a resolution to approve the nomination of James W. Foss Memorial Training Tower as a commemorative name on the Omaha Public Safety Training Center Tower located at 11616 Rainwood Road.
Public hearing and vote on number 44 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Lowell Ferguson, 3916 North 208th Street, Elkhorn, 68022. I'm a member of the Omaha Fire Department. Today I'm representing the Omaha Firefighters Historical Society in regards to nominating the commemorative naming of the James W. Foss Memorial Training Tower. And if I can just borrow a few minutes of your time, I'd like to talk about the Foss family and what they've meant to Omaha. Stanley and Vi Foss were married in the 1940s. They raised their family on South 27th Street. They had two children, James Foss and Sherry Foss, who's here today. She's now Mrs. Williams. James went to Central High School. He was a baseball player. He took classes at UNO and then was ultimately employed by the city of Omaha in the finance department. He was drafted by the U.S. Army in 1968 and went to go do his duty in Vietnam. On his first patrol, they were attacked. He defended the men he was with. He jumped on a grenade and was killed. He jumped on the grenade for the purpose of saving the men that he was with. This was testified by the men that were with him, and he was recognized with the Congressional Medal of Honor. The next year, the city of Omaha, in recognition of his sacrifice and example to the public servants, dedicated the Omaha Fire Training Tower that was on Abbott Drive in his name. For 32 years, Omaha firefighters trained at that tower. They learned the skills that they would use in the city of Omaha. We have a guest here also in the back. In the white shirt is Fire Chief Rob Gotch of Papillion. Before he was leading that fire department, he was a firefighter here in Omaha, also trained at that tower and led Battalion 2 for many years. That tower's meant a lot to firefighters. When it was ultimately decommissioned and demolished, we have the new training center that's out on Rainwood Road. That tower was never dedicated. There was a lot of moving parts. It was just never addressed. Amongst ourselves and speaking to other firefighters, we believe that Jim Faust would be a perfect example to the men and women that will train out there at the training center. Those will be your firefighters, your police officers, somebody that set a good example for the city of Omaha. I'm ready to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Thanks for that background. Any other speakers that want to talk today? All right. Are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Mr. Hug.
I don't know if one of you can answer this, but you mentioned he grew up on South 27th Street? Yes. Where on South 27th Street? I hate to make you come back up.
That's okay.
You don't have to. We'll make it.
You do have to come back up.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm overruled.
South of St. Mary's.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Five blocks north of Dodge, 2 blocks south of St. Mary's.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's motion and a second. I too support this, and I've worked with the family previously. Nice to see you again. To rename a section of street by Central High School after James Faust as well, and that was a wonderful collective of efforts with the Central High ROTC and the family and the Vietnam Veterans of America. And I think at that time, which was at least a year ago, we talked about doing this as well. So I thank the firefighters for following through on that and establishing this very worthy honor. There's motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 45, a resolution to approve the nomination of Saratoga Beltline Historic Way as a commemorative street name on Ames Avenue from 24th Street to Florence Boulevard.
Public hearing and vote on number 45 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Gayla Chambers. Good to see everybody again. I was here, I think, about a year ago in regards to the Saratoga Beltline Trailway Economic Vitality Preservation District, which was approved, and I'm thanking everybody that approved that. Now I'm expanding the development. It's slow going because it's with my personal money. I just have a love for that area because I bought a 58,000 square foot building in that district area. Saratoga is a very unique city that got swallowed up with Douglas County many, many years ago. But what kept it thriving was that the people there remained. And we still have Saratoga School right there that still doesn't really know how it even came about. So one of my things is that I wanted to put a named street in the area that I'm creating and developing right now with my own personal money. And so my goal after that is to help to beautifize the area with beautiful light poles, and I love plants on them to just bring that area back alive again. As you look in North Omaha, that area has always been overlooked. We do things on 24th and Lake, 24th and Cumming, keep going down to Miller Park, but that area is an industrial area. Zoned industrial area that's just basically been overlooked. And my goal is to create an atmosphere of tourism for the community. I hope that I will live to see it, but at least I know that I can lay the platform for maybe a young person to take my footstep and go and continue to create the development. So I'm just here in front of the City Council to ask to approve the Saratoga Beltline Historic Way District, which will start all the way from Florence Boulevard and go all the way to Ames Street. Any questions?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for that overview.
Yeah.
Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hi.
Hi, Gayla. I would like to acknowledge and thank you for having the foresight to recognize this area and uplifting it and making it something that the residents and the community can look forward to visiting and especially spending money in that area. I also like to recognize your ability to take on this task, as you mentioned several times, that you would be using your own funding. That is to be recognized, and it is not a easy feat. So I just want to acknowledge your efforts and tell you thank you once again. I will be in support of this.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Mr. Harding will be making that motion.
Move the approval.
I'll second. Roll
Thank
call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
You bet.
Item 46, an ordinance levying a special tax and assessment on certain lots to cover the cost of clearing snow and ice from sidewalks in district number SWSR 2024-01.
Public hearing on number 46 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 47, an ordinance awarding a contract to PCI Municipal Services LLC for the operations, management, and maintenance of certain city-owned parking facilities and on-street parking meters.
Public hearing on number 47 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 48, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to the Maple Valley Mixed-Use District Development Agreement. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on number 48 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Coster, 10836 Old Mill Road, here with TD2 on behalf of the applicant. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 49, an ordinance to approve the North 38th Avenue City Home Project Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearing on number 49 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, Don Seaton, City Planning, here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Hi, Matthew Cavanaugh, Holy Name Housing Corporation, 4324 4th Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68111. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't see any other proponents. Are there any opponents?
Yes, sir. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, 4928 North 52nd Street, and North. I would like for the City Council to consider asking Mr. Don to spend more time with North Omaha in our projects. He's put a lot of time in these projects, I've noticed. And also, I noticed the beginning of this session, we spent an hour on liquor. When are we going to get around to some developments in North Omaha? That's what I'm concerned with, the developments there. So if this Mr. Tommy Warren, he doesn't have very much time, so if Don would call me, or I call him, we would start negotiating to buy the Hilton Hotel downtown and the First National Plaza to bring councilors here. And we have offers already been saying they want to bring their councilors here. But I can't get Mr. Tommy Warren because he's so busy. So we'll put it in Don's hand to take over that project and see if this will work. Because President Carter, he's had this program.
All right, John, you have to stay on focus to Holy Name Housing Corporation in this item, please.
Yeah, I like Holy Name. And every time we played the basketball against them, they keep asking me why I jump so high. I said, it's a Boston baked beans.
All right, thank you. Are there any other opponents to number 49?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. Once again, I'm not sure I'm totally opposed to it, but I just think the City Council and Holy Name Corporation should go a little further to define for us who this is, because when I go online to try and find out, I keep getting the implication that this is a church-affiliated operation, and I don't want to make that mistake if that's not true. I fail to understand why churches across Omaha are not doing this. If they all do it, then we would not have any problem with the lack of affordable housing around here, would we? But they also, council needs to ask and explain how we use that much money, 198,362, now to build these houses. And who paid any property tax on the properties that these are going to go on? Were they lowered to zilch for property tax value assessment and then assigned over to Holy Name? They get to build them at loan money, somebody loans them money to build them, and you pay it back over 20 years, maybe 15, 20 years by taxing people that live in the neighborhood, or whatever these ad valorem taxes are. Because I don't think many people disbelieve that they do not pay higher property taxes because of these TIF developments. So just be fair and a little more transparent about the process, and you might find it to your benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 49? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kavanaugh, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
Yep.
You have been a servant in the Omaha community, more importantly, there in your off of their Fort Fontanelle in the North Omaha area. So you probably have a better sense of awareness in terms of what some of our individuals in our community oftentimes need to have be brought up to speed in terms of knowledge. And so we had a gentleman here that asked some questions regarding your funding and things of that nature, and how that resonates to a opportunity for someone to be having the benefit of having a home, or renting initially and then moving into the ownership space. Could you impart that knowledge on us today?
Certainly, I'm happy to. So I don't know if talking about addressing gentleman before's question directly or just more broadly.
Both, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I agree. TIF is confusing. The knowledge that the public, general public, doesn't have a great understanding of it, and I think that a lot of that challenge comes from it. But I know from where you sit, it's one of the few tools that the city has to support the development of affordable housing or housing development in general. So it's really valuable to us, and I would happily work with anybody to try to explain that to Mr. Storr as well, how that works. And then more broadly, how does these things, they tie into us getting people into housing and into home ownership? It's all about bringing down that cost so that they can, it's all about the monthly payment, whether you're living in your mortgage payment or your rental payment. So that's what we do, is try to use whatever subsidies and sources and efficiencies are available to try to bring down that cost, to bring housing that can get people in, into high quality, stable, affordable housing. And a lot of projects, this project in particular, will be at least for the 20 years, because this pairs TIF with city home funds, so it'll be a permanent rental fund, rental units for 20 years under that program. But generally what we do is try to transition whatever units we have, as long as they're not senior housing, into home ownership, so give people the opportunity to buy them. And that may be something that happens 20 years down the road when these different subsidies mature. But that's a really high level picture of that. But
so oftentimes you take vacant lots like we have in North Omaha and make good use of that space.
That's the goal, right? Yeah, so we're using these TIF dollars to clear these lots, which have been vacant and overgrown. So there's a lot of trees. There's no improvements in the right of way on these. So that's kind of what we're doing here, is taking these public dollars, taking that commitment for over the next 15 years from the property taxes that we'll pay as the landlords and owners of the property, pulling that forward into the present date to invest that money in the land to bring homes onto these lots.
Okay. And you've been in a corporation for how long?
Holy Name, 4.5 years, 5
4.5
years, something like that. Mhm.
Okay. And about how many homes have you built since you've been in operation?
Since Holy Name's been in operation? Well, so Holy Name's been around for about 41 years.
Okay.
We have currently just over 400 units under management, but through our process of building and selling, we've built well over 500 units over those 40 years.
Over the 41 years?
Yep.
Okay. So about average 10 homes a year?
Yeah, well, over the long haul, last year we built 35 units.
Okay.
This year, we'll hit around 20. Next year, probably try to hit about that number. So we're trying to up the numbers as much as we can, and we appreciate any support we can get from the council on that goal.
All right. Thank you for your efforts. I appreciate that.
All right.
And I will be in full support of this.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Madam Clerk.
Non-action items, items 50 through 72, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn? I'll second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:17.